The rain was relentless against the windows of the old Miller estate in rural Virginia. Sarah stood in the grand hallway, the air smelling of damp wood and old memories. Her grandfather, Elias Miller, had passed away 3 weeks ago, leaving her this house and a warning. "Don't look for what was meant to be forgotten," his last letter had read. But Sarah was a journalist. Curiosity was in her blood. She held a small, rusted brass key in her hand. It had been hidden inside her grandfather's favorite pocket watch. No lock in the main house fit this key. There was only one place left to look: the attic. The attic door creaked as if protesting her entry. Inside, the space was filled with white-sheeted furniture that looked like ghosts in the dim moonlight. Sarah moved to the very back, where a heavy oak wardrobe stood. Behind it, she noticed a loose floorboard. Using a small tool, she pried the board open. There it was, a small iron-bound chest. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she inserted the brass key. It turned with a satisfying click. Inside wasn't gold or jewelry. It was a stack of letters tied with a blue ribbon, an old photograph of a woman she didn't recognize, and a diary from 1945. Sarah opened the diary. The handwriting was shaky, written by someone in great fear. It belonged to her grandmother, Rose, who had died long before Sarah was born. October 12th, 1945, the entry began. "Elias brought home a box today from the war. He says it's empty, but I hear it humming at night. He stares at the basement door for hours. He isn't the man who left for Europe 3 years ago. Something came back with him, something that doesn't belong to this world." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold rain. Her grandfather was a war hero, a man of honor. What could he have brought back? She looked at the photograph. The woman in the picture was Rose, but she looked terrified, pointing towards the garden, specifically towards the old oak tree. Sarah grabbed a flashlight and headed out into the storm. The old oak tree stood at the edge of the property, its branches like skeletal fingers clawing at the sky. As she reached the tree, her flashlight flickered. In the brief flashes of light, she saw it, a small stone marker buried deep in the mud at the base of the tree. It wasn't a grave, it was a seal. Suddenly, the mud began to shift. Sarah stepped back, her breath hitching. She wasn't alone. A figure stood at the edge of the woods, watching her. A figure wearing an old military coat from the 1940s. "You shouldn't have opened the chest, Sarah," a voice whispered. It sounded exactly like her late grandfather. The figure in the military coat didn't move. Sarah's flashlight trembled in her hand. "Grandpa," she whispered, her voice cracking. But as a bolt of lightning illuminated the garden, the figure vanished. Only the sound of the wind remained. Sarah ran back into the house, locking the door behind her. Her heart was drumming a frantic rhythm. She looked at the diary again. The last page had a drawing, a map of the very basement she had walked past 1,000 times. Underneath the drawing, one word was written in bold, dark ink: buried. She knew she couldn't stop now. She grabbed a crowbar from the garage and headed to the basement. The air down there was thick and cold, smelling of wet stone and old secrets. She reached the far corner, exactly where the map indicated. The concrete floor looked different here, cracked and uneven. With every ounce of her strength, Sarah began to pry at the floor. After an hour of sweating and breathing hard, the concrete gave way. Beneath it wasn't dirt. It was a metal hatch, bolted shut. On the center of the hatch was the same tree symbol that was on the brass key. She realized the key wasn't just for the chest in the attic. It was for this. She inserted the key and turned it. A heavy, mechanical groan echoed through the basement. The hatch swung open, revealing a ladder leading down into a hidden bunker. As she climbed down, the humming sound Rose had mentioned in her diary grew louder. It was a low, vibrating pulse that she could feel in her bones. At the bottom, she found a room filled with old radio equipment, maps of Europe, and a single glowing glass canister, on a pedestal. Inside the canister was something that looked like liquid starlight. Next to it was a final letter from her grandfather, dated the day he died. "Sarah," the letter read. "I didn't find this in the war, it found me. They call it the root of time. It has the power to show the past or change the future. I spent my life guarding it so no one could use it for evil. Now, the shadow you saw in the garden, that is the guardian. It is waiting for the next protector. It is waiting for you." Sarah looked at the glowing light, then at the shadow moving at the top of the ladder. Her life as a journalist was over. Her life as the keeper of the root had just begun.